dear listener, to sleepy story facts, a soft sleep story, a gentle bedtime story, and a calm nighttime story designed to help you fall asleep beneath the quiet shimmer of distant worlds. And tonight, we will drift slowly outward through the dark, peaceful reaches of the solar system until we arrive at Pluto, that small and patient world far beyond the familiar inner planets, where the silence feels velvety, the light feels thin and silver, and the mind can settle as softly as frost on glass. Before we go any farther, allow your breathing to become slow and unhurried, and let your body feel supported exactly where it is. Because the first part of this relaxing story is simply a settling in, a calm induction, a moment to loosen the jaw, soften the shoulders, unclench the hands, and allow every ordinary thought of the day to drift away like tiny crystals floating through deep space, with no need to solve anything, no need to remember anything, and no need to be anywhere except here, listening, resting, and gradually sinking toward deep sleep through the hush of calming narration. Imagine that the room around you is growing wider and quieter, as if its walls have gently dissolved into a dark blue horizon. And above that horizon, there stretches a grand and tranquil sea of stars, not bright or startling, but distant and muted, glowing with a softness that asks nothing of you. While somewhere beyond Neptune, in the broad and peaceful region called the Kuiper Belt, Pluto continues its slow journey in the cold, like a lantern made of ice and memory, moving through the outer solar system with extraordinary patience. This is why Pluto is such a soothing companion for a sleep story. It is small, remote, and wrapped in mystery. Yet it is also real, a true dwarf planet, a world with landscapes, seasons, ice, atmosphere, and history. A place that reminds us that even at the edge of the sun's domain, there are still textures, changes, and delicate beauty waiting quietly in the dark. So as this bedtime story unfolds, let your mind float there gently, not rushing forward, not searching for drama, but simply gliding, as though you were a silent traveler in a warm observation cabin, watching Pluto grow little by little in the blackness, its pale surface touched by a faint and distant sunlight that is much softer than daylight on Earth, as though the sun itself had become drowsy and learned to whisper. Pluto is often remembered for being small, and there is something comforting in that, because small worlds invite close attention, and close attention can calm the mind. They ask us to notice the quiet details, the way ice can gather in wide plains, the way shadow rests along ancient edges, the way a thin atmosphere can catch light and tint the sky with an unexpected blue, so gentle and surprising that it feels less like astronomy and more like a lullaby written in color. And Pluto is not alone, because the solar system keeps a modest collection of dwarf planets, including Ceres, Eris, Haumea, and Makemake, each one a small world with its own shape, rhythm, and story. And there is a special comfort in imagining them all together, not competing for attention, not hurrying through the night, but resting in their own faraway provinces of darkness, like scattered pearls laid across black velvet. As we continue this gentle bedtime journey, picture Pluto turning slowly beneath you, unbothered by clocks, untouched by noise, carrying bright and dark regions across its face with dreamlike slowness, and let that pace become your pace now. Because this is a nighttime story that does not rush, a relaxing story meant to make every thought longer, every breath fuller, every pause more spacious, until even time itself seems to stretch like a calm ribbon across the stars. Pluto's remoteness is part of its charm, because distance can feel peaceful when it is held safely inside narration. And in that distance, there is room for wonder without pressure, room to imagine a horizon of frozen plains, quiet mountains of ice, and a sky where the sun is no longer a blazing master of the day, but a tiny, brilliant point, small enough to feel tender. Long ago, humans wondered what might exist beyond Neptune, and eventually Pluto was found, not as a loud revelation, but as one more gentle reminder that the universe often reveals itself in patient increments, as if the cosmos prefers to speak in a murmur rather than a shout. And tonight we listen in that same spirit, soft and unhurried, allowing each scientific fact to arrive like a blanket being drawn a little higher, warmer, and more comforting. Later in this sleep story, we will wander among other dwarf planets too, tracing their quiet orbits and their sleepy personalities. But for now, we remain with Pluto, letting its blue haze rise over the curve of its horizon, letting its frozen surface glow faintly below us, and letting the mind rest on the beautiful thought that even in the cold outer reaches of space, there can be softness, there can be grace, and there can be peace enough to carry a listener all the way toward deep sleep. So rest here for a little while longer, in the dark beyond the bright planets, in the serene outskirts of the solar system, where Pluto waits without urgency, turning slowly in the silence, inviting you to drift beside it, to release the weight of the day, to float inside this gentle bedtime, and to fall asleep as if you too were becoming a quiet little world, held carefully in the vast and soothing night. Now, as our little vessel of imagination continues its slow and calming glide through the velvet dark, Pluto no longer feels like a distant point of light, but like a true small world waiting patiently ahead, a pale lantern suspended in the deep outer solar system, turning with such unhurried grace that even your thoughts may begin to slow in sympathy, lengthening and softening until they drift as quietly as frost in moonlight. Pluto belongs to the Kuiper Belt, that wide and distant region beyond Neptune filled with icy bodies, and simply knowing that can make the mind feel spacious, as though there is always more room ahead, more silence, more cool and gentle darkness in which to rest. The farther we drift, the more Pluto reveals itself not as a sharp or dramatic place, but as a world of subtle contrasts, where pale ice and dusky terrain lie together in calm balance, like blankets layered over a bed, prepared for a long and dreamless sleep. There's no need to hurry here, because Pluto itself seems to teach a different rhythm, one of patience and quiet repetition. And in that rhythm, you may notice your breathing becoming easier, your forehead smoother, your whole body settling as if it too has entered a colder and more peaceful orbit. Pluto is a dwarf planet, one of the officially recognized small worlds in our solar system, and there is something deeply soothing in that humble title, because because a dwarf planet does not need to be the biggest thing in the sky to be beautiful, interesting, or worthy of wonder. Ahead of us, its famous bright heart-shaped region seems to glow softly in the imagination, not like a beacon calling us urgently forward, but like a lamp left on in a distant window, offering comfort across an enormous night. The sunlight here is faint because Pluto is so far from the sun, and that distant light gives the whole scene a tender, subdued quality, as though daylight itself has grown sleepy and learned how to whisper across billions of miles. Beneath that faint illumination lie great stretches of ice, including nitrogen ice, spread across cold plains that feel almost impossibly still. And it is pleasant to imagine those plains now as broad, silent fields where nothing needs to happen, where nothing interrupts the calm, where even time seems to rest. As we continue our gentle approach, another presence begins to emerge beside Pluto, not intruding, not startling, but accompanying it with a kind of cosmic loyalty. And this is Charon, Pluto's largest moon, traveling with it in such close partnership that the two often feel less like a planet and moon, and more like companions, sharing the same long, quiet journey through darkness. There is comfort in companionship, even out here, and perhaps that is one reason Pluto feels so peaceful in a bedtime story. It is remote, yes, but not entirely alone. Together, Pluto and Charon move through the outer solar system with a steadiness that feels ancient and reassuring, as though they have practiced silence for eons and have become very good at it. You do not need to picture any sudden motion, any harsh wind, any violent collision. Instead, imagine only the soft turn of two icy worlds, balanced in a dark cradle of space, each one keeping the other company in the vast hush beyond Neptune. Pluto also has more moons beyond Charon, a small family traveling with it through the cold, which makes this faraway place feel not empty, but gently inhabited, a quiet household at the edge of the sun's reach. If you like, you may imagine these little moons as tiny drifting lanterns, each one moving so slowly that their motion is almost indistinguishable from stillness, as though the whole system has agreed to preserve the night rather than disturb it. And above Pluto's frozen horizon, there is something else delicate enough to belong in a dream. A thin atmosphere that can form hazes, faint layers of light and particles suspended in the cold, sometimes casting a blue tint that has become one of Pluto's most unexpectedly serene features. Blue is such a restful color for the mind, and here, at the edge of the solar system, it appears not in a warm earthly sky, but in a fragile veil above ice, a reminder that beauty can exist even where sunlight is weak and temperatures are bitterly low. For a sleep story, that thought is especially gentle because it suggests that calm does not depend on warmth or nearness or noise. Calm can live in the farthest places too, in regions where the sun is only a bright star and the silence has had ages to deepen. So let yourself drift a little closer still, not landing, not arriving in any hurried way, but simply floating above the slow curve of Pluto's world while Charon keeps watch nearby. And let the smallness of these worlds become soothing rather than lonely. There is relief in smallness, in being free from grandeur, free from pressure, free from the need to blaze or roar or prove anything at all. Pluto does not rush to impress the night. It simply turns, carries its ices, keeps its moon close, and continues faithfully through the Kuiper Belt with a quiet dignity that makes it perfect for gentle bedtime, calming narration, and the long, soft path toward deep sleep. And as you listen, perhaps you can feel your own thoughts becoming more like Pluto now, fewer in number, slower in motion, dimmer at the edges, wrapped in a blue hush, content to drift without effort across a tranquil darkness that asks nothing more of you than rest. Now we drift a little lower, still unhurried, still wrapped in the hush of this sleep story, until Pluto's pale surface seems to open beneath us like a vast field of sleeping light, and the bright, heart-shaped region that so many people remember begins to feel less like a symbol and more like a place of stillness, a soft and frozen expanse resting beneath the faintest daylight, where ice lies in broad calm sheets, and every shadow seems to settle rather than fall. Pluto is a dwarf planet in the Kuiper Belt, and that simple truth gives this moment its special peace, because we are not visiting a giant world of storms or noise, but a small, distant world whose beauty arrives gently through cold plains, slow rotation, and sunlight that has traveled so far it feels tender by the time it reaches the surface. Imagine gliding over that icy brightness now, so smoothly that there is no sense of motion at all, only the feeling that the landscape is quietly unfolding beneath you, revealing subtle textures of frost and frozen nitrogen, ancient patterns shaped by time so long and patient that even the busiest waking thoughts would have no choice but to soften in its presence. Here, in this relaxing story, even science feels like a blanket, because each real detail about Pluto seems to slow the mind instead of stirring it. And the more we learn, the more serene the world becomes, a remote sphere of ice and rock, a body small enough to feel intimate, yet old and grand enough to hold the silence of ages. Above us, there lingers that famously delicate atmosphere, thin and fragile, with haze layers that can scatter the sunlight into blue tones, so that Pluto, despite its cold distance, carries a strange softness around its horizon, like a cool breath on glass, like twilight gathered into a veil. It is lovely to think that so far from the sun, where darkness is deep and the air is slight, there can still be color, and not a loud or burning color, but blue, one of the gentlest shades the mind can hold before sleep, a color that seems made for calming narration, for a gentle bedtime, for the long exhale that leads toward deep sleep. As we continue our quiet orbit, Karen remains nearby, steady and companionable, and the closeness of Pluto and its largest moon gives this distant place a feeling of relationship, of calm company, of two small bodies sharing the night together without haste. There are other moons in Pluto's family as well, and though they are far smaller and dimmer in the imagination, it is soothing to know that even here, near the edge of the sun's dominion, there is a little system of worlds moving together in measured silence, each one circling with a patience that seems almost impossible to disturb. Perhaps that is one of the most comforting facts of all, that the solar system is not only made of blazing stars, dramatic impacts, and dazzling giant planets, but also of quiet arrangements like this one, where small icy worlds keep one another company in the dark, and where a listener can rest inside that order, as if inside a cradle too vast to see all at once. The faint sunlight that reaches Pluto does not erase detail. Instead, it softens it, touching the surface lightly, revealing bright regions and darker stretches with such low, delicate contrast that everything appears half-dreamed, as though the world itself were already drifting toward sleep. If you allow your thoughts to slow with the landscape, you may notice how comforting it is that Pluto does not demand attention in the way nearer worlds do. It simply exists, cold and quiet, carrying its ices through the long arc of its orbit, letting centuries pass as gently as moments. And beyond Pluto, farther into the imagination, there remain other dwarf planets too, each with its own remote dignity. Ceres, Eris, Haumea, and Makemake, small worlds recognized alongside Pluto, reminding us that our solar system contains not only the familiar planets of childhood memory, but also a more delicate outer family of lesser-known spheres, reserved almost by nature for slower thought and softer storytelling. In a nighttime story like this, that family becomes a kind of constellation of calm ideas, each dwarf planet a small lantern of science and stillness. And though we will visit them more fully later, for now it is enough to feel them waiting in the distance, like quiet rooms in a very large and peaceful house. Let your attention return then to the surface below, to those frozen plains and pale curves, and to the deep, cushioning blackness above, where no harsh sound travels and no hurried voice can reach you. Because out here, the cosmos seems to move at the pace of rest itself. Pluto has become more than an object now. It has become a rhythm for this bedtime story, a model of slowness, a patient little world teaching by example that distance can be peaceful, cold can be beautiful, and smallness can hold immense wonder without ever disturbing the silence. So we remain here a little longer, suspended over the frozen heart of Pluto, while the blue haze at the edge of the world grows softer, while Karen drifts in quiet attendance, and while your own thoughts, like these distant worlds, grow rounder, dimmer, and more serene, until they no longer feel like tasks or worries at all, but only gentle shapes passing through a dark and welcoming sky. Now, very gently, we begin to rise from Pluto's frozen brightness, not with any sudden motion, not with any feeling of departure that might disturb the calm, but with the softest possible widening of view, as though the little world beneath us is exhaling us back into the larger hush of the outer solar system. And as we ascend through that delicate blue haze, Pluto seems to become even more peaceful than before, because distance has a way of smoothing every edge, turning plains into pale brushstrokes, shadows into whispers, and a whole dwarf planet into something like a lantern cupped inside the dark. Beneath us remains that quiet realm of ice and muted light, with Karen still nearby, faithful and steady, a companion world keeping pace in the immense black silence. And there is something profoundly soothing in watching them together. Two small bodies sharing a patient rhythm that has no need for noise, no need for urgency, and no interest in the restless tempo of waking life. This is one of the reasons Pluto feels so perfect for a sleep story and a gentle bedtime. It offers scale without pressure, wonder without intensity, and science without sharpness, allowing the mind to stay curious while the body grows heavy and calm, drifting little by little toward deep sleep. As the curve of Pluto becomes smaller below us, the Kuiper Belt feels larger all around, not crowded, not busy, but spacious in a way that invites the imagination to stretch out and rest, because this distant region beyond Neptune is filled with icy bodies and small worlds, each one moving through the dark with a quiet dignity that feels almost ceremonial, as if the outer solar system were a grand hall where everyone has agreed to walk softly. Somewhere among these cold and ancient pathways travel the other recognized dwarf planets too. And tonight, in this relaxing story, they do not feel like entries in a list so much as neighbors in a silent constellation of small worlds: Ceres, Eris, Haumea, and Makemake, each one carrying its own stillness, its own shape of mystery, its own form of remote serenity. It is pleasant to think of them not as lesser worlds, but as modest worlds, and modesty can be deeply restful because it asks for attention without demanding it, like a candle on a distant windowsill, or the sound of slow breathing in a dark room. Pluto has already shown us how a small world can hold ice, atmosphere, moons, and beauty enough to fill the imagination. And that makes it easier now to believe that the rest of this gentle family may also have their own quiet forms of wonder, waiting patiently to be noticed one by one. So let us not rush toward the next destination, because rushing would feel out of place here. Instead, let the scene broaden gradually until Pluto becomes one pale note in a larger symphony of darkness, a soft chord in the long music of the Kuiper Belt. And let your thoughts broaden with it, becoming less tangled, less urgent, less bright, until they resemble the distant sunlight out here, calm and thinned and tender. The farther we float from Pluto, the more the blackness around us feels not empty, but protective, like a vast velvet blanket laid over the edges of the solar system. And inside that velvet, the small worlds continue their quiet motions, turning, circling, enduring, never hurrying, never raising their voices, simply existing with a calm that feels older than language. If there is a lesson in these sleepy science facts, it may be that the universe does not always express itself through brilliance and thunder. Sometimes it speaks in faint blue haze, in pale ice, in small moons keeping close, in distant dwarf planets traveling through the cold with extraordinary patience. And patience is so helpful at bedtime, because patience loosens the grip of the day. Patience allows thoughts to settle to the bottom like snow in a globe. Patience reminds the body that it does not need to solve, perform, or strive right now, only to rest and listen as this nighttime story carries you farther from the sharp edges of waking. Even the names of these worlds seem quiet when spoken slowly: Pluto, Ceres, Eris, Haumea, Makemake, each one like a little bell wrapped in cloth, sounding softly, almost drowsily, across the mind. We will visit them in time, and each will have its own chapter of stillness. But for now, it is enough to know that they are out there together, a subtle outer family of recognized dwarf planets, reminding us that the solar system becomes gentler, not harsher, as we move into its colder, dimmer reaches. Ahead lies more darkness, more science, more calm wonder. But nothing arrives all at once, and that is part of the comfort too, because this bedtime story is content to unfold at the pace of orbit and shadow, at the pace of a world turning beneath weak sunlight, at the pace of breath slowing in a quiet room. So for a few moments longer, simply float here between Pluto and the next small world, held in the spacious hush beyond Neptune, where the mind can grow light, the body can grow warm and heavy, and the farthest reaches of the sun's domain can feel less like a wilderness and more like a soft and endless place to fall asleep. As Pluto and Charon grow smaller behind us, becoming twin hints of silver in the blue-black hush, our journey does not feel like a leaving so much as a gentle widening of attention, the way a sleepy mind drifts from one calm thought to another without ever fully waking. And in that soft change of focus, we begin to sense another member of this quiet family of small worlds, not as a sudden arrival, not as a bright interruption, but as a patient idea taking shape in the dark, steady and reassuring, as though the solar system itself were turning a page very slowly for us. Tonight, that next page belongs to Ceres, one of the officially recognized dwarf planets, and simply speaking its name in this relaxing story can feel settling, because it joins Pluto, Eris, Haumea, and Makemake in reminding us that the solar system is not made only of large and famous worlds, but also of smaller ones that move more gently through the imagination and invite a softer kind of wonder. If Pluto was a far lantern in the cold Kuiper Belt, then Ceres may be imagined in the quiet theater of this bedtime story as a smaller, nearer glow of thought, a round and restful presence that asks not to be admired with excitement, but to be noticed with tenderness, the way one notices the cool side of a pillow, the hush after rain, or the slow comfort of breathing in a dark room where nothing urgent remains to be done. There is something deeply calming in this gradual procession from one dwarf planet to another, because each small world seems to reduce the scale of worry, shrinking the mind's anxious corners until they no longer feel sharp and instead become smooth and dim, like stones resting at the bottom of a silent stream. And perhaps that is why a sleep story built around sleepy science facts can be so soothing, because the facts do not crowd the mind, but organize it, giving it gentle places to rest in the presence of Ceres. Even before we imagine any particular landscape, there is already a mood, a softness of attention, a sense that the universe contains room for modest things, and that modest things can be beautiful precisely because they do not overwhelm us. They remain patient, self-contained, and quiet, allowing the listener to drift closer at the pace of comfort rather than curiosity alone. What matters most in this moment of calming narration is not speed and not spectacle, but the serene truth that Ceres shares with Pluto, the dignity of being a true dwarf planet, a real small world with its own place in the architecture of our solar system. And that truth has a way of soothing the mind, because it suggests that even the lesser-known corners of existence are still held in order, still named, still part of a larger and peaceful whole. So let your thoughts follow that order now, very gently, as if you were gliding through an enormous observatory where every window opens onto a different quiet world, and each world is lit only enough to comfort you, never enough to startle, while somewhere far behind, Pluto's pale ice and delicate blue haze still linger in memory like the last note of a lullaby, softening the darkness rather than breaking it. The beauty of this nighttime story is that we do not need to rush from fact to fact like footsteps on a hard floor. We can let each idea settle into the next, can let Pluto's frozen silence hand us gently onward to Ceres, can let the family of dwarf planets feel less like a list and more like a string of quiet lanterns suspended across the mind, each one glowing just enough to guide you farther from waking and nearer to deep sleep. And perhaps, as the body grows heavier and warmer beneath the blankets, you can feel how restful it is to think of the solar system in this way, not as a place of competition or noise, but as a layered arrangement of presences, from large worlds to small ones, from bright places to dim ones, each moving with immense patience, each keeping its place through the long, slow turning of time, and each offering a different doorway into peace. Earlier, Pluto taught us that distance can be gentle, that faint sunlight can feel tender, and that even a remote world can carry haze and beauty. And now those lessons remain with us as we turn toward Ceres, because once the mind has learned to see small worlds calmly, it begins to understand that the universe is full of quiet forms of belonging. In that understanding, this gentle bedtime becomes easier to trust, for there is no need to force sleep when the story itself is moving like an orbit, smooth and repetitive, carrying you in circles of comfort through a cosmic landscape where no voice rises, no danger approaches, and no demand is made upon you except the simplest one of all: to listen for a little while longer, to breathe, and to let the day loosen its hold. Ceres waits ahead in the imagination, not as a destination to conquer, but as a calm point of focus, another small world to keep us company, another soft scientific fact to cradle the mind, another reminder that the cosmos contains not only grandeur, but intimacy too. And that intimacy, when wrapped in velvet darkness and spoken through a slow sleep story, becomes its own kind of medicine for a tired heart and a busy brain. So we continue, not with engines or urgency, but with the drifting certainty of dreams, leaving Pluto as a pale blessing behind us, carrying forward the knowledge that the recognized dwarf planets form a quiet outer and inner family of their own, and letting Ceres draw nearer in the most peaceful way possible, until even its name seems to float rather than sound, and you too begin to feel as if you are floating, suspended between one soft fact and the next, already halfway into sleep. Now the journey continues in the quietest possible way, as if our little path through space were made not of motion, but of deepening stillness, and the dark around us has become so soft, so spacious, and so patient that even the idea of distance feels less like travel, and more like drifting through a dream that has no edges, no urgency, and no end that needs to be reached before morning. Behind us, Pluto and its companion Charon have faded into memory and starlight, becoming less like places and more like calm impressions that remain somewhere in the sleeping mind, like the last cool touch of evening air before the window is gently closed. And ahead of us, there begins to gather another kind of quiet, a quieter quiet even than before, because we are turning our attention toward Ceres, another officially recognized dwarf planet, another small world in the broader family of these serene and modest bodies that move through the solar system with no need to hurry and no desire to call loudly for notice. There is something especially soothing about that word, Ceres, because it arrives lightly on the breath. And in a sleep story, every soft word matters. Every gentle syllable can become a place to rest. Every small scientific fact can become a pillow for a busy mind. And so, tonight, we let this one settle slowly into us, knowing only that Ceres belongs among the recognized dwarf planets, and that alone is enough to make it feel like a natural next stop in this bedtime story, this nighttime story, this relaxing story for adults who want to fall asleep beneath a sky made of wonder rather than worry. As we drift onward, the darkness does not feel empty at all. Instead, it feels richly padded, like velvet laid over a great hall of silence. And somewhere within that hall, Ceres waits with the same modest dignity we found in Pluto, not trying to overwhelm us with scale or brightness, but offering a smaller, gentler shape for the imagination to hold while the body grows heavier and the thoughts become slower, rounder, and kinder. If Pluto taught us that remoteness can be peaceful, that faint light can be beautiful, and that a tiny world can carry atmosphere, ice, and quiet companionship, then this next approach invites a different lesson, one about calm attention, about how the mind changes when it moves from one small world to another without being asked to awaken, perform, or decide anything at all. This is the secret rhythm of a gentle bedtime, and perhaps also the secret rhythm of space itself. For the universe does not always reveal its beauty through thunder or blaze, but often through patience, repetition, and soft contrasts, through names spoken slowly, through worlds that turn in darkness for ages, and through the simple comfort of realizing that there is room in creation for the very small as well as the very large. The more we continue in this calming narration, the more the journey begins to resemble sleep itself, because sleep also arrives by degrees, never all at once, never in a single great wave, but as a series of small permissions, a loosening of the shoulders, a lengthening of the breath, a dimming of inner noise, a willingness to let the next thought be quieter than the last. And that is how we are traveling now, by permissions rather than commands, by softness rather than speed. Ceres is still ahead, not yet close enough to fully describe in detail, and that too is part of the comfort, because anticipation can be restful when it is gentle and unforced, when it does not sharpen the senses but lulls them, when it feels less like expectation and more like being carried downstream beneath a moonless sky where the water itself seems half asleep. So let yourself remain here in this middle distance for a while, in the beautiful in-between, where Pluto has not been lost, and Ceres has not yet fully arrived, where the known and the coming softly overlap, and where the mind can drift in that overlap until it no longer cares about exact measures or boundaries, only about the continuing hush of the story. The recognized dwarf planets form a small and peaceful company that includes Pluto, Ceres, Eris, Haumea, and Makemake, and just thinking of them together can make the solar system feel less like a map of hard categories and more like a chain of quiet lanterns spaced across darkness, each one glowing with its own subdued personality, each one offering a different texture of stillness for the listener to lean into on the slow descent toward deep sleep. And because this is a sleep story, because this is meant to help you fall asleep rather than keep you alert, we do not rush to compare them or measure them or classify them too sharply. We simply let their names pass through the room like low music. We let the idea of small worlds settle over us like a blanket. And we trust that the science can remain true while the mood remains soft behind your closed eyes. If they are closed now, perhaps Ceres appears not as a crisp object, but as a gentle presence slowly clarifying through the dark, a round and silent world waiting with patient kindness. And perhaps your own thoughts are beginning to imitate that shape, becoming smoother, simpler, less tangled, less interested in the day that has already passed. This is how the journey helps, not by demanding concentration, but by offering one calm object after another for the mind to rest upon. And now Ceres becomes that object, that soft next note in the melody, that quiet point toward which we continue to drift, while the great black hush of space holds everything without strain. So remain here a little longer, suspended in the tender interval between worlds, and let the story carry you the rest of the way into that lovely place where listening turns into dreaming, and dreaming turns almost imperceptibly into sleep at last, in the most gradual and comforting way. The small, waiting thought of Ceres begins to gather form before us, not with any bright display, not with any dramatic call for attention, but with the same patient softness that has guided this sleep story from the beginning, until what was once only a calm idea in the dark now seems like a true little world resting ahead. And there is something deeply reassuring in that slow arrival, because it reminds us that some of the gentlest things in the universe reveal themselves only to a quiet mind. Ceres is one of the officially recognized dwarf planets, belonging to that modest and peaceful family of small worlds that includes Pluto, Eris, Haumea, and Makemake. And simply knowing this lets it take its place in our nighttime story like another soft lantern glowing in a very large room. We do not hurry toward it, because nothing in this gentle bedtime needs haste. And as we drift nearer, it is enough to feel that Ceres carries a different mood from Pluto, not better or lesser, only different, as each calm world must be, offering its own shade of stillness to the listener who wants to fall asleep while traveling through science as though through a dream. Behind us now, Pluto remains a fading memory of pale ice, blue haze, and the quiet company of Charon, while ahead of us Ceres becomes a new center of calm attention, helping the mind make the same soft transition that the body makes when it moves from wakefulness toward deep sleep, one slow stage after another. each gentler than the last. In this relaxing story, Ceres does not need to announce itself with grandeur, because small worlds are often most soothing when they simply exist in their own measured way, turning somewhere in the darkness with a patience so complete that even the busiest thoughts begin to feel unnecessary in comparison. If you wish, you may imagine it now as a quiet roundness emerging from shadow, touched by a distant and respectful light, with no harsh edges and no sudden contrast, only a calm surface waiting to be observed with the kind of attention that does not strain, the kind of attention that is nearly the same as rest. There is a lovely humility in these sleepy science facts, because the recognized dwarf planets do not dominate the solar system, and yet they belong within it fully, each one carrying its own dignity, and that dignity is comforting at bedtime, suggesting that there is value in the small, value in the quiet, value in simply keeping one's place in the great arrangement of things. So as Ceres comes nearer, let your breathing follow the same rule of small and steady motions. Each inhale like a gentle approach, each exhale like an easy drift, until the rhythm of the story and the rhythm of your body begin to resemble each other so closely that there is no longer any effort in listening at all. Perhaps that is one reason the outer and quieter parts of science can feel so healing at night. They do not push the mind toward urgency, but invite it into scale, patience, distance, and order. And order, when spoken softly, can become a form of comfort. Pluto taught us one kind of stillness, a far cold stillness wrapped in blue haze and faint sunlight. And now Ceres offers another, a stillness of modest presence, a stillness that feels closer to thought itself, as if the mind had shaped a small, peaceful world and then placed it carefully into the dark to help us rest. Around us, the blackness remains velvety and protective, not empty, but spacious. And within that spaciousness, Ceres seems almost to float in a hush of its own, as though all the noise that normally fills a day had been set down far away, leaving only this calming narration, this slow approach, and the quiet assurance that the universe contains more restful corners than we usually remember. In waking life, the mind often moves too quickly from one concern to another. But here, in this bedtime story, the movement is different, because each new world is not a fresh demand, but a fresh permission to soften, and Ceres becomes precisely that now. A permission to let your thoughts grow simple, to let your attention become round and untroubled, to let the day loosen and sink away beneath you like a shoreline, disappearing under mist. The family of recognized dwarf planets remains a gentle thread running through the story, linking Pluto to Ceres and Ceres to the others we have yet to visit. And there is comfort in that continuity, in knowing that the journey does not need to leap or startle, but only continue, world by world, breath by breath, fact by fact, each one presented with enough softness that curiosity can remain awake, just long enough for sleep to carry the rest. So we draw a little nearer still, and Ceres becomes less like a distant thought and more like a companion for the next stretch of night. A small, patient sphere waiting in the dark with no expectation except our quiet company. And as we meet it in this slow and tender way, the whole journey seems to settle into an even deeper calm, as if the story itself were lowering its voice, dimming its light, and wrapping the listener in a warmer hush. Let everything become easier here. The muscles around the eyes, the weight of the hands, the pace of thought, the need to keep track of anything at all. Because Ceres has arrived not to excite the mind, but to cradle it, not to sharpen attention, but to smooth it. And in that smoothing, there is the beginning of something wonderfully close to sleep, the kind that comes without struggle, the kind that arrives like a small world out of darkness, slowly, softly, and exactly on time. Now that Ceres has fully entered the quiet circle of our attention, we do not need to do anything except remain near it, as though we had come at last to a calm little harbor after a very long and gentle drift. And there is something wonderfully easing in that feeling, because arrival in a sleep story is never sharp or bright, never noisy or sudden, but more like the slow settling of a blanket over the body, the soft recognition that you have reached a place where your thoughts no longer need to travel so quickly. Ceres is one of the officially recognized dwarf planets, belonging to the same small and peaceful family as Pluto, Eris, Haumea, and Makemake. And that simple fact allows it to feel immediately at home in this bedtime journey, as though it has always been waiting here in the dim quiet for us to notice it with sleepy kindness rather than hurried curiosity. We hover beside it now in a manner so calm that it is almost like floating beside an idea rather than a world. And perhaps that is part of its bedtime charm, because Ceres does not crowd the imagination with too much all at once, but offers a modest presence, a rounded stillness, a gentle point of focus for a tired mind that wants only a little science, a little wonder, and a great deal of peace. Around us, the darkness remains velvety and deep, not empty, but sheltering. And Ceres seems to rest within that shelter the way a smooth stone might rest at the bottom of a clear and silent pool, complete in itself, untroubled, patient, almost dreamlike in its refusal to demand anything from the listener. Earlier, Pluto gave us pale ice, blue haze, and the sense of a remote lantern far beyond Neptune. And those memories still glow softly behind us. But Ceres brings a different kind of calm, not the calm of immense distance, but the calm of simplicity, the calm of a small world that belongs exactly where it is and has no need to be louder than its own steady existence. In this relaxing story, that difference matters, because the mind grows drowsy, not only from repetition, but also from variation held gently, from the feeling that each chapter offers a new softness without ever breaking the larger hush. And so Ceres becomes a new softness now, a quieter shade in the same nocturnal painting. If you imagine it turning slowly in the dark, you do not need to imagine dramatic cliffs or rushing storms or anything harsh at all. It is enough to feel its roundness and its patience, enough to know that it joins the company of small worlds that make the solar system feel more intimate, more layered, and somehow more kind. Perhaps that is why the recognized dwarf planets are so perfect for a gentle bedtime. They remind us that not everything meaningful has to be enormous, and not everything beautiful has to blaze, because some truths are better carried in smaller hands, spoken in lower voices, and approached with the unhurried breath of a listener already halfway to sleep. As we rest here beside Ceres, let your thoughts become modest too, no longer trying to hold the whole day, no longer trying to solve every unfinished thing, but choosing instead to be small and sufficient, like one little world turning quietly in darkness, complete without explanation, peaceful without effort. The beauty of this nighttime story is that it asks for almost nothing from you. It asks only that you remain here, that you listen lightly, that you allow the scientific wonder of these distant bodies to cradle rather than stimulate the mind. And Ceres does this beautifully by simply existing within the same calm family as Pluto and the other recognized dwarf planets, giving shape to the idea that the cosmos can be restful when viewed through the right lens. And as this chapter continues in one long, unbroken flow, perhaps you can feel how soothing it is not to stop, not to divide, not to sharpen the moment with transitions, but simply to let sentence follow sentence the way orbit follows orbit, gently, naturally, without strain, while Ceres remains beside us like a quiet companion in the dim middle distance of thought. There's a special comfort in companionship at night, even imagined companionship, and Ceres offers that now, not speaking, not shining too brightly, only sharing the hush with us, while the greater family of dwarf planets extends beyond, each one waiting in its turn, each one connected by the soft thread of this sleepy science journey. Somewhere far back, Pluto still turns with Charon in the colder outer dark, and somewhere ahead the other small worlds wait with their own calm personalities. But there is no need to hurry toward them, because this moment beside Ceres is enough. Just as one slow breath is enough, just as one dim lamp in a darkened room can be enough to make everything feel safe and settled again. So stay here a little longer in this gray and gentle stillness, letting your body sink deeper into rest, letting your jaw unclench, letting the thoughts that remain become rounder and slower, until Ceres itself seems to blur at the edges and become less a world than a mood, less an object than a soft place in the mind where wakefulness can set down its weight. In that softened state, science is no longer a subject to study, but a current to float upon. And these dwarf planets are no longer distant classifications, but quiet bedtime companions, each one helping the night become broader, darker, calmer, and easier to trust. And if sleep is nearing now, as gently as a world emerging from shadow, then let it come in the same way Ceres came, slowly, peacefully, without announcement, until you are no longer following the story at all, but simply drifting within it, carried by its hush into the deepest and most effortless rest. As we remain beside Ceres, the quiet begins to deepen in a new way, not because anything dramatic has changed, but because the longer one rests near a small world, the more that world seems to reveal the peaceful quality of simply being itself. And now Ceres no longer feels like a destination we have reached, but like a calm condition of mind, a soft gray horizon where thought can slow, breathing can lengthen, and the many bright fragments of the day can finally settle into something smooth and low and far away. Ceres is one of the officially recognized dwarf planets, part of the same modest family that includes Pluto, Eris, Haumea, and Makemake. And that fact alone is enough to place it gently within the constellation of this bedtime story, where each small world offers a different doorway into stillness rather than a burst of excitement. So we do not ask Ceres to be louder than it is, and we do not ask ourselves to think more sharply than the night requires. Instead, we hover here in the dim hush and let the imagination move over its presence as lightly as moonlight over a sleeping field, noticing only the feeling of roundness, patience, and the delicate comfort of knowing that even in the vast architecture of the solar system, there is room for worlds that speak softly. Perhaps that is one of the most soothing ideas in all of sleepy science, that the universe is not made only of giants and flames and dazzling intensity, but also of these quieter companions, these lesser-known worlds whose modest scale makes them feel almost intimate, as if the cosmos, for all its grandeur, has also taken care to create places where the mind can rest without strain. Earlier, Pluto gave us pale ice, blue haze, and the image of a remote lantern drifting in the far dark beyond Neptune. And those gentle impressions still linger somewhere behind us, like the memory of a lullaby. But Ceres offers another lesson entirely, a lesson in steadiness, in how to remain rather than arrive, in how to let a calm object stay before the mind long enough that the mind itself begins to imitate its stillness. There is no need to imagine noise here, no rushing winds, no hard brightness, no sudden movement at the edge of vision, only the unbroken sense of a small world continuing in silence, exactly as it has for ages, while we keep it quiet company in this relaxing story, designed to help you fall asleep, sink into deep sleep, and follow a gentle bedtime path through science without ever feeling pressed to stay fully awake. The more time we spend here, the more Ceres becomes less an object and more rhythm, a slow and even pulse in the narrative. And perhaps your own body is beginning to find that rhythm now, the shoulders dropping a little more, the forehead smoothing, the jaw loosening, each breath arriving with less effort than the one before, until listening itself starts to feel like drifting on dark water under a cloudless sky. In waking life, attention often behaves like a restless bird, flying from branch to branch. But in a nighttime story like this, attention becomes something else entirely, something more like snow falling in a windless place, descending steadily, quietly, almost gratefully. And Ceres, with its modest presence among the recognized dwarf planets, gives that descending attention a place to land. The family resemblance matters too, because it is calming to remember that Pluto is not alone in its smallness, and Ceres is not alone either. These worlds belong to group, a peaceful category of real celestial bodies that help the solar system feel broader and gentler than childhood diagrams sometimes suggest. And there is deep comfort in categories when they are soft enough to cradle wonder instead of reducing it. So while we hover in this soft gray silence, the story itself seems to become more drowsy, as if every sentence were speaking a little more quietly than the last, every image lit a little less brightly, every idea offered with less insistence. And that is exactly as it should be, because the purpose of a sleep story is not to sharpen the edges of the mind, around them, not to bring everything into focus, but to let it blur beautifully at the edges, until the listener no longer needs to hold on quite so tightly. If you can picture Ceres now, let it be simple. A calm sphere suspended in the dark, accompanied not by spectacle, but by spaciousness. And let that spaciousness spread through your thoughts like cool evening air entering a warm room, softening every corner, dimming every hard outline, making it easier and easier to rest inside yourself, somewhere farther off wait the other small worlds we will meet in time, each one carrying its own flavor of quiet. But there is no reason to hurry toward them, because this chapter is about staying, about the art of remaining beside one calm thing long enough to feel your whole inner weather change. And so we stay with Ceres, letting its small and dignified presence hold the center of this calming narration, while the memory of Pluto's blue haze and pale light drifts gently behind us, and the rest of the dwarf planet family remains ahead like distant candles in another room. In that arrangement, there is harmony, and in harmony, there is rest, and in rest, there is the quiet permission to release the day completely, to stop measuring time, to stop preparing for tomorrow, and to let this slow scientific dream carry you onward until the words themselves seem to thin like starlight, and all that remains is the feeling of floating beside a small world in perfect peace, very gently now, as though the story itself were breathing more slowly. We begin to let Ceres recede behind us, not with any feeling of loss, and certainly not with any sharp farewell, but with the same patient softness that has carried us this far, so that leaving one small world feels almost identical to entering the thought of another, and the whole journey continues like a long tide of calm awareness washing through the dark. Ceres remains with us in mood, even as it grows smaller, because once a peaceful world has settled into the imagination, it does not disappear all at once, and so its quiet roundness lingers like the memory of cool sheets, or the dim comfort of a lamp turned low in another room, or the final pages of a bedtime story that continue to glow softly even after the eyes have begun to close. Ahead of us, there is no urgency, only distance, and inside that distance, another member of this serene family begins to wait for us. Eris, one of the officially recognized dwarf planets, belonging with Pluto, Ceres, Haumea, and Makemake, in that modest constellation of small worlds that makes the solar system feel so much wider and gentler than it first appears. Even the name Eris, when spoken slowly in the hush of night, can be softened by tone and pacing until it loses any hard edges it may have had in daylight and becomes simply another quiet point in the dark, another resting place for attention, another place where the mind may settle while the body slips farther toward deep sleep. We do not need to rush to know everything about it at once, because this relaxing story moves by peaceful nearness rather than by urgency. And for now, it is enough to feel that Eris waits at a great remove, held in cold darkness, part of the same official family of dwarf planets that has already given us Pluto's pale stillness and Ceres's gray calm. Behind us, Pluto remains a far memory of blue haze and frozen brightness, and Ceres remains a nearer memory of small and steady presence, and together they form a gentle trail in the mind, like two lanterns fading one after the other down a quiet corridor, while ahead the thought of Eris opens like a darker room, cooler and deeper, inviting us onward without ever hurrying our steps. There's something especially soothing in these transitions, because transitions are where the mind learns not to cling, not to leap, but simply to drift. And drifting is so close to sleeping that the difference between the two begins to blur after a while, until listening becomes a kind of floating, and floating becomes a kind of surrender. Perhaps that is why these sleepy science facts feel so restorative at night, because they offer a sequence of calm objects for the mind to rest on, one after another, without demanding a single burst of effort. And now Eris becomes the next of those objects, not yet vivid, not yet close, but present enough to draw us forward with quiet certainty. The darkness around us seems broader now, velvety and immense, and yet not empty, because emptiness would feel lonely, while this darkness feels full of patience, full of distance, full of old celestial order, as though every small world we pass has helped shape it into a place where rest can deepen rather than break. The recognized dwarf planets form such a lovely pattern in this story, because they are real, named, and gently connected in the imagination, each one a soft node in a larger map of peace. And it is calming to know that even far beyond the bright central regions of the solar system, there are still these modest worlds keeping their place with quiet dignity. As we move on, let your own thoughts become modest too, less interested in solving, less interested in reviewing the day, less inclined to circle around unfinished things, and more willing simply to accompany this journey the way a small moon accompanies a world, faithfully and without noise. In this gentle bedtime, there is no task except remaining here, following the slow current of the narration, and letting the names of distant worlds do their subtle work upon the mind. Pluto, Ceres, Eris, each one taking its turn, like a low bell softened by fog, each one carrying just enough scientific truth to feel grounding, and just enough mystery to feel dreamlike. If your breathing is slower now, if the weight of your body feels more pleasantly settled, if the room itself seems to have become larger and darker and kinder around you, then the story is doing exactly what it was meant to do, carrying you in long, unbroken waves away from the bright surfaces of waking, and toward that deeper inward quiet where sleep no longer feels like something to reach for, but something already arriving. And so we continue toward Eris, not crossing some dramatic threshold, but easing into a farther hush, leaving Ceres behind like a gray pearl in memory, carrying Pluto's blue stillness even farther back into dream, and allowing the next small world to form at its own pace in the cool black distance, while the words themselves begin to soften, dim, and lengthen, until they feel less like sentences and more like orbiting breaths, less like explanation and more like calm, until even the idea of travel begins to dissolve, and all that remains is the peaceful sensation of being carried gently and endlessly through a universe where small worlds keep watch over sleep. Now the story carries us onward in the gentlest possible way, as if the dark itself were rocking us from one quiet thought to the next, And as Ceres slowly softens behind us into a dim and restful memory, another presence begins to form ahead with such patience that it hardly feels like approaching a destination at all, but more like allowing a new dream to gather shape in the hush. Eris is one of the officially recognized dwarf planets, part of the same small and peaceful family as Pluto, Ceres, Haumea, and Makemake. And tonight it enters our sleep story not as something sharp or distant or cold in a lonely sense, but as another modest world waiting calmly in the night, another place where the mind may rest without effort. The farther we drift, the more the silence seems to deepen around us. And yet this silence is not empty, because empty silence can sometimes feel hollow, while this silence feels full, velvety, protective, as though all of space has wrapped itself in dark blue fabric and drawn close simply to keep the listener warm. Behind us remain the softened impressions of earlier chapters, the pale frozen tenderness of Pluto, the quiet rounded stillness of Ceres, and those worlds do not vanish as we leave them, but continue to glow somewhere in memory like low lamps in a house where everyone has already gone to sleep. Head Eris does not yet show itself clearly, and that is part of the comfort too, because at bedtime it is often easier to rest with something half seen and gently forming than with something bright and fully revealed. And so we let it remain what it is for now, a faint glimmer in a wide field of dark, a little promise of continued calm, a distant companion slowly stepping into the soft light of attention. In this relaxing story, every transition is meant to feel like exhaling, and perhaps you can feel that now, the way one chapter loosens into the next without any hard edge, the way the mind no longer has to leap from idea to idea, but can simply float, carried by gentle bedtime language, by calm narration, by the slow and drowsy rhythm of small worlds turning in the night. There is such comfort in a journey that does not rush, because rushing belongs to daytime, to clocks and lists and bright rooms, while this nighttime story belongs to another pace altogether, a pace measured in drifting, in soft noticing, in long unbroken breaths that seem to travel farther than words. If you imagine Eris now, let it remain dim and graceful, no more than a quiet sphere suspended somewhere ahead, touched by the faintest thought of light, as though the universe were carefully sketching it for us with the palest silver line, and then waiting for our sleepy minds to fill in the rest. We do not need detail yet, because detail can wait. What matters in this moment is mood, and the mood here is one of deepening rest, of gentle expectation without tension, of traveling so softly through the cosmos that the body forgets to hold itself up and simply sinks a little deeper into comfort. The beauty of these sleepy science facts is that they make room for wonder without disturbing peace. And that is rare, because so many things in waking life ask to be noticed quickly and intensely, while these distant dwarf planets invite a different kind of attention, slower and kinder, the kind that settles over the mind like a warm blanket laid across tired shoulders. Somewhere ahead, Eris waits in that same spirit, not trying to dazzle us, not asking to be understood all at once, only offering its presence as the next calm lantern in our long procession through the dark. And perhaps the body understands such things before the mind does, because by now your breathing may already be smoother, your hands heavier, your thoughts less interested in returning to the day, less willing to rehearse or revise or remember, and more ready simply to drift where the story goes. That is why this bedtime story can feel like a true sleep story, because it does not force sleep to arrive. It only creates the conditions in which sleep feels welcome, conditions of quiet repetition, gentle scale, tender darkness, and a steady movement from one soothing image to another. Pluto gave us icy distance, Ceres gave us gray stillness, and now Eris offers the beginning of a farther hush, a deeper chamber in the great house of night, where everything seems softened by remoteness and by the slow mercy of time. So we continue without effort, without any need to arrive quickly, and the darkness around us remains broad and kind, carrying us as lightly as water carries a leaf downstream, while ahead the faint thought of Eris brightens by almost nothing at all, just enough to let the story keep going, just enough to reassure the listener that there is another quiet world waiting, another gentle fact waiting, another peaceful corner of the solar system, ready to cradle the mind on its way toward deep sleep. If sleep is near now, let it come as Eris comes, gradually, delicately, almost imperceptibly, until the distance between listening and dreaming becomes so small that it no longer matters. And all that remains is the feeling of floating through a universe where even the smallest worlds move with enough patience to teach the heart how to rest. And so, in this long, soft passage between memory and arrival, between Ceres behind and Eris ahead, we let the story dim a little more, slow a little more, and wrap itself a little more closely around you, like night itself learning how to whisper, now with the same slow tenderness that has carried us across so much darkness. We begin to feel the presence of Eris more clearly ahead, not as a sudden object appearing out of nowhere, but as a patient, little world letting itself be noticed only by degrees, as if it understands that a true sleep story should never hurry the mind, never ask the heart to race, and never break the velvet spell of a gentle bedtime. And so we drift toward it in silence, allowing its faint and distant beauty to gather around us like pale moonlight settling over snow, while behind us the memories of Pluto and Ceres remain soft and warm in their own quiet way. Pluto with its far blue hush, and Ceres with its rounded gray calm, each of them still present somewhere in the background of the imagination, like dim lamps glowing through half-closed doors. Eris is one of the officially recognized dwarf planets, belonging to the same small and peaceful family as Pluto, Ceres, Haumea, and Makemake. And tonight that fact does not feel like a classification so much as a comfort, because it means this next world is part of the same serene constellation of companions that has already guided us so gently through the outer reaches of thought. As we move nearer, the darkness does not become harsher, but softer still, broader and more protective, as though the farther we travel into this nighttime story, the less the universe wishes to impress us, and the more it wishes simply to cradle us. And there is something deeply restful in that sensation, in the feeling that space itself has become a quiet room prepared prepared for sleep, with Eris waiting near its farthest window, touched by a hush so complete that even the idea of sound seems to fade before it can form. I want you to imagine, if it feels pleasant to do so, that this little world ahead is wrapped in a silver stillness, not gleaming sharply, not shining in any way that would wake you, but glowing only enough to be felt as a calm presence, a round and distant companion resting in the cool blackness. And as you imagine it, let your breathing become a little slower, a little deeper, the inhale arriving like a gentle approach, and the exhale carrying away whatever small leftovers of the day may still cling to you. There is no need to study Eris too closely yet, because in a relaxing story, the mind is allowed to meet a world softly, through mood before detail, through atmosphere before explanation. And so, for now, we simply keep company with it, hovering at the edge of its quiet influence, while the story itself lowers its voice even more, becoming a form of calming narration so smooth and unbroken that it almost feels like dreaming already. If Pluto taught us that remoteness can be beautiful, and Ceres taught us that modesty can be soothing, then Eris seems ready to teach us another calm lesson, one about depth, about the way a farther distance can make everything gentler, less urgent, and more dreamlike, until the mind no longer strains toward understanding, but relaxes into pure presence. Content just to float here in the dark, with one more small world keeping us company. Somewhere in your room, perhaps the blankets have become warmer. Perhaps the pillow feels softer beneath the weight of your head. Perhaps your hands have already gone still in that comfortable way they do when deep sleep is near. And as that happens, Eris seems to draw nearer too, not because it is rushing toward us, but because our attention is becoming quieter. And quiet attention has its own gravity, its own slow and lovely way of bringing distant things close. The recognized dwarf planets have formed such a gentle pathway through this bedtime story, each one small enough to feel intimate and real enough to feel grounding. And now Eris takes its place in that path with perfect patience, not asking to be admired, not asking to be solved, only offering its quiet existence as the next resting place for a tired mind. We could say that this is a relaxing story about space, or a gentle bedtime journey through sleepy science facts, or a nighttime story for adults who want to fall asleep beneath the thought of distant worlds. And all of those things would be true. But perhaps it is even simpler than that, because what we are really doing here is learning how to move at the pace of the cosmos, when the cosmos is at its calmest, world by world, breath by breath, pause by pause, until the very structure of the narration begins to resemble rest itself. So let Eris remain before you now as a soft silver thought in a wide dark sea, and let the story gather around that thought without pressing too hard, without adding anything sharp or heavy, only layer after layer of hush, until your own thoughts begin to behave the same way, growing quieter at the edges, drifting farther apart, becoming less like sentences and more like slow lights seen across water at night. Pluto is far behind. Ceres is fading gently into the middle distance of memory, and Eris now holds the center of this chapter with a dignity so modest that it almost disappears into the silence. And that, too, is part of its gift. Because a world that can almost disappear without ever being lost is the perfect companion for the threshold of sleep. Stay here with it a little longer, not trying to hold every word, not trying to remember every image, only floating in the tone of the story as it wraps itself around you, while Eris keeps watch in the far hush and the blackness all around remains tender, spacious, and kind, until the difference between listening and sleeping grows very small indeed, and the night, with all its cool and peaceful science, carries you the rest of the way on its own, now that Eris has become the quiet center of our attention. We do not need to do anything except remain here with it, floating in the silver hush as though we had entered a farther chamber of the same peaceful dream. And there is something especially soothing about that feeling, because this small world seems to arrive not with brightness, not with noise, and not with any demand to be understood too quickly, but with a kind of stillness so complete that even the thoughts that followed us this far may begin to loosen and fade, one by one, like dim lights being lowered in a distant house at the end of a very long evening. Eris is one of the officially recognized dwarf planets, part of the same calm family as Pluto, Ceres, Haumea, and Makemake, and in a gentle bedtime story, that fact feels less like a technical category and more like a reassurance that this world belongs here with us, exactly as it is, another small and dignified presence in a solar system that becomes softer and more dreamlike the farther our imagination drifts into it. Around us, the darkness remains vast, but now it feels almost tender, like layers of velvet folded upon themselves again and again, until there is no sharp edge left anywhere, only depth, only spaciousness, only the sensation of being held inside a night so patient that it has forgotten how to hurry. And perhaps that is why Eris feels like such a perfect companion for this sleep story, because it invites the mind into a deeper stillness, the kind that does not ask for concentration, only quiet company. Earlier, Pluto taught us to love the faint blue hush at the edge of a frozen world, and Ceres taught us the comfort of smallness and steady presence. And now Eris adds its own note to the lullaby, a note of distance, of calm remoteness, of silence so old and so unbroken that it seems to smooth every restless part of the day simply by continuing to exist. If you imagine it now, you do not need crisp detail, because sleep rarely arrives through sharp outlines. Instead, let Eris remain softly defined, a quiet roundness in a broad field of dark, touched by a pale and respectful light that reveals just enough to comfort you and no more, while your breathing eases into a slower pattern. Each inhale a gentle drift nearer, each exhale a release of whatever little tensions still remain in the shoulders, the jaw, the brow, or the busy corners of the mind. This is the hidden kindness of a relaxing story told through science, because real worlds can steady us, and small worlds can soothe us, and when their names are spoken slowly enough, they begin to feel less like facts to memorize, and more like rooms to rest in, quiet rooms with dim lamps, cool air, and no expectation that we must stay fully awake. So let the name Eris rest in the mind for a while, not as something to analyze, but as a soft sound carried across the dark, a low and distant bell wrapped in cloth. And let that sound drift beside the memory of Pluto and Ceres until the whole family of recognized dwarf planets feels like a string of muted lanterns extending through the night, each one glowing just enough to guide the listener farther toward deep sleep. There is such comfort in the idea of a family of small worlds, because families imply continuity, belonging, and gentle relation. And all through this nighttime story, that sense of relation has protected us from loneliness, reminding us that even in the most remote reaches of the imagination, nothing is entirely solitary, nothing entirely without place, and nothing too small to matter. Perhaps your body understands that by now more clearly than your thoughts do, because the body often knows sleep before the mind is willing to admit it. And so your hands may feel heavier, your legs quieter, your eyes softer behind their lids, while the narration keeps moving in its long, unbroken flow, as smooth as orbit, as repetitive as breath, as tender as the moment between wakefulness and dreaming, when the world begins to blur at the edges and become forgiving. Eris seems made for that threshold, for this gentle space between attention and surrender, because it holds our focus lightly, never gripping it too tightly, never shining too brightly, simply remaining where it is with quiet dignity while we drift beside it, calm and unhurried, as though there were all the time in the universe and no reason at all to disturb the hush. And perhaps that is the deepest sleepy science fact of all. Not only that these dwarf planets are real, named, and recognized, but that they teach a certain pace of being, one that modern life so often forgets, a pace of patient turning, distant light, modest scale, and faithful presence, a pace in which nothing has to happen quickly for it to matter. So remain here with Eris a little longer, letting the story dim itself around this small and peaceful world, letting the blackness become softer, letting the words become lower and slower, until you no longer feel as though you are listening to a narration at all, but floating within it, held between one calm thought and the next. Behind us, Pluto has become almost a blue memory, and Ceres a gray one. And ahead, somewhere beyond this chapter, the next gentle world will wait in its own time. But there is no need to go there yet, because this moment around Eris is enough. This silver quiet is enough. This soft drift through the dark is enough. And you are allowed to stay here in that sufficiency, warm and still, and gradually fading from listening into dreaming, while the small world beside you turns without urgency, keeps its place without effort, and teaches the night how to become even more peaceful than before. Now, in the same unhurried way that a dream changes shape without ever truly waking the sleeper, we begin to drift onward from Eris, and the small silver calm that surrounded us, there does not vanish, but lingers softly in the mind, like the last cool brightness of moonlight on a curtain. While ahead, another member of this quiet family of dwarf planets begins to wait for us in the darkness, patient and modest, and perfectly suited to the slow rhythm of a sleep story, meant to help you fall asleep one gentle breath at a time. Eris remains behind as a calm memory, just as Pluto remains behind as that pale world with its delicate blue haze, and Ceres remains behind as a softer gray stillness, and together those worlds through the imagination. A string of small real places whose existence makes the solar system feel less like an empty map and more like a house of dimly lit rooms, each one opening into the next without noise or urgency. Ahead of us now lies Haumea, one of the officially recognized dwarf planets, and even its name seems to move quietly when spoken slowly, as though it understands that it is arriving in a bedtime story, in a nighttime story, in a relaxing story where nothing should come too quickly, and where every new fact should feel like a blanket being drawn a little more carefully over the listener's shoulders. We do not rush toward Haumea, because rushing would belong to daylight and to the bright, practical hours of the waking world. While here, in this calm narration, we are living by a different kind of time, a longer and softer time measured in drifting, in breathing, in the gradual dimming of thought. And so, we let this next world appear only as a pale suggestion at first, almost hidden within the velvet black, no more than a patient little promise that the story still has farther and quieter places to go. There is something deeply soothing about the fact that Pluto, Ceres, Eris, Haumea, and Makemake are all recognized together as dwarf planets, because it reminds the mind that the universe contains not only the large and famous worlds that dominate memory, but also smaller companions that ask for gentler attention. And gentler attention is exactly what the tired mind can bear at bedtime, when it no longer wants to be dazzled and only wants to be held by something real, calm, and beautifully distant. So as Haumea slowly gathers form ahead, let your body gather softness too. Let the muscles around the eyes become loose. Let the forehead smooth. Let the breath descend a little deeper, because these small worlds teach by example, and their example is never one of haste or strain, but of quiet continuity, of keeping one's place in the great order of things with patience enough to outlast every hurried feeling that followed you from the day. Around us, the darkness seems broader than ever now, but not colder in any lonely sense, because the farther we travel among these dwarf planets, the more the darkness feels inhabited by peace, by order, by distant companionship, and the blackness itself begins to seem like a sheltering fabric stretched around the whole journey, protecting the mind from bright edges and letting every thought come to rest in a deeper hush. Pluto's memory still offers that far faint glow of frozen light and blue atmospheric haze. Eris offers a silver remoteness, and Ceres offers its modest, steady presence. And now Haumea joins them not by interrupting their peace, but by extending it, as though the bedtime story were moving through a quiet constellation of moods, each world adding a new shade of stillness to the same long lullaby. If you imagine Haumea now, let it remain indistinct at first, a gentle body in the distance, a calm little shape forming so slowly that there is no moment of arrival to disturb you, only a deepening sense that another real world is waiting somewhere ahead in the soft dark. And that awareness can be wonderfully calming, because it gives the mind a place to drift without asking it to think too hard or hold too tightly to any one image. This is one of the secret comforts of sleepy science facts, that they can be true without being sharp, grounded without being demanding, and wondrous without becoming loud. And perhaps that is why this gentle bedtime journey works so well, because it offers the tired brain a sequence of real celestial companions, each one quiet enough to soothe and solid enough to steady, each one allowing wakefulness to loosen its grip a little more. By now, you may feel that the room around you has grown softer at the edges, that your hands have become pleasantly heavy, that the need to follow every word exactly has begun to melt away. And that is perfectly right, because this story is not asking you to remain alert, but inviting you into deep sleep through repetition, through calm scale, through the peaceful certainty that these small worlds continue their measured existence, whether or not we hold them fully in mind. So we move on from Eris, not as travelers pressing forward, but as dreamers carried gently from one resting place to another. And Haumea comes nearer with exquisite slowness, like a thought that has almost become a dream, while behind it, somewhere farther along the story's quiet path, Makemake still waits in its own time. And behind us, Pluto, Ceres, and Eris remain like fading lanterns in the long corridor of night, each one keeping a little light for us without ever asking us to stay awake. There is no need to arrive fully in this chapter, because sometimes the approach is the most soothing part, the interval where the mind is suspended between what it remembers and what it is about to receive. And in that suspension, there is such peace, such softness, such permission to let go, that even the concept of distance becomes comforting, turning the dark between worlds into a cradle rather than an emptiness. And so we continue toward Haumea in that spirit, surrounded by velvety silence, accompanied by the quiet truth of the recognized dwarf planets, and carried forward by a narration that grows lower and slower with every passing line, until the words themselves seem to drift like distant ice in a soundless sea, and your own thoughts, following them, become lighter, fewer, dimmer, and finally gentle enough to float all the way into sleep. Now the journey carries us farther along the long, pale path between small worlds, and ahead, with such patience that it almost seems to be made of patience itself, Haumea begins to gather in the imagination, not as a sudden destination, not as a bright interruption, but as another quiet presence forming slowly inside the great velvet silence, while behind us, Eris fades into silver memory, Ceres into gray stillness, and Pluto into that far blue hush that once seemed so distant and now feels almost like the first line of a lullaby, still echoing softly somewhere in the dark. Haumea is one of the officially recognized dwarf planets, belonging to the same calm family as Pluto, Ceres, Eris, and Makemake. And tonight that fact settles over the story like a blanket of order, reminding us that these worlds are not wandering fragments in a meaningless dark, but gentle members of a quiet celestial family, each one holding its place with extraordinary patience. There is something especially restful in the way Haumea arrives at the edge of thought, because it does not ask to be grasped all at once. And perhaps that is exactly what a tired mind needs at bedtime. Not something to analyze quickly, but something to approach slowly, through mood first, through silence first, through the soft widening of attention that happens when the body grows heavy and the breath becomes slower than language. If you like, you may picture Haumea now as a pale little form deep in the cool blackness, touched by distant light so faint and respectful that it reveals only the suggestion of shape, enough to comfort you, enough to guide the story onward, but never enough to wake the sharper parts of the mind that have already begun to drift toward deep sleep. The darkness around us feels broader than before, yet also kinder, as though every chapter we have traveled has taught the night how to soften itself a little more, until now the whole solar system seems less like a place of blazing spectacle and more like an immense, quiet house, its distant rooms lit by small worlds instead of lamps. And Haumea waits in one of those rooms with the same modest dignity that made Pluto, Ceres, and Eris such soothing companions in the earlier hours of this gentle bedtime story. Perhaps the loveliest thing about moving among dwarf planets in a sleep story is that smallness itself becomes a comfort, because small worlds do not overwhelm the imagination. They invite it to rest, to hover, to breathe, to notice how peaceful it can feel when nothing demands speed. And now Haumea becomes the next resting place in that sequence, another real world to hold softly in the mind, while the day loosens its final grip and slips away into the dark. You do not need to know everything about Haumea in this moment, and in truth, that unknowing is part of the softness, because sleep often comes best when the world remains gently incomplete, when a thing can be present without being exhausted, when a distant body can simply be there ahead of you, quiet and steady, as if to say that existence itself can be enough, and that no great effort is required to belong in the story of the night. So let the approach continue in the gentlest possible way, and let your own thoughts imitate that pace, becoming fewer, less urgent, less entangled with whatever daytime concerns once seemed important, until they resemble these small planets themselves, rounded by distance, dimmed by hush, and content merely to drift within the great architecture of sleep. Behind us, Pluto still carries its blue haze in memory. Ceres still glows with its modest calm, and Eris still rests in its silver remoteness. And together, they make the path behind feel safe and continuous, as though every place we have passed has left a little cushion of quiet beneath us, so that even moving onward toward Haumea does not feel like leaving, but like deepening. This is the hidden kindness of a nighttime story told through science, that it lets truth and tenderness exist side by side, letting real worlds become gentle companions, letting recognized names become low and soothing sounds, and letting the structure of the cosmos itself become a kind of calming narration, steady enough to trust and slow enough to follow without effort. If your hands are warm now, if your breathing has become long and quiet, if the room around you feels a little farther away than it did at the beginning, then Haumea is already doing its work within the story, not by dazzling you, but by giving your tired mind another calm point to drift toward, another little promise waiting in the dark, another soft scientific fact to rest against without needing to hold it too tightly. Head, Haumea seems to clarify by almost nothing at all, just enough for us to sense that we are nearing a new chapter of stillness, while beyond it, Makemake waits in its own patient time. And beyond all of them lies the larger mystery of a solar system filled not only with famous worlds, but with these quieter companions that seem made especially for late-night wonder and the slow descent into sleep. So we continue, not landing, not arriving sharply, only gliding nearer to Haumea through the same velvety black that has held us so gently from the beginning. And as we glide, the words themselves grow softer and more spaced, like lights seen through drifting mist, until the distance between listening and dreaming becomes very small indeed, and the little pale world ahead seems less like an object in space than a thought the night is thinking on your behalf, calm, slow, and perfectly content to carry you the rest of the way towards sleep at last, with the same tender patience that has guided us from the far blue hush of Pluto to the gray calm of Ceres and the silver quiet of Eris. We begin to feel Haumea not merely as a distant thought ahead of us, but as a true resting place in the story, a small and peaceful presence waiting in the velvet dark with such gentleness that even arrival feels like drifting deeper into sleep rather than reaching any clear destination. Haumea is one of the officially recognized dwarf planets, belonging to the same calm family as Pluto, Ceres, Eris, and Makemake. And tonight, that simple fact settles into the mind like a soft, scientific lullaby, reassuring us that the quiet worlds of the solar system are not isolated fragments, but companions in a larger, orderly stillness. We do not hurry closer, because nothing in this gentle bedtime story should ever feel abrupt. And so Haumea comes to us the way sleep itself so often comes, by degrees, through softening, through dimming, through a slow lowering of inner noise, until the mind can hold only one calm thing at a time. And now, this small world becomes that one calm thing hovering before us, as though the night had shaped a little lantern from silence and set it carefully into the dark. Perhaps that is why the recognized dwarf planets feel so well suited to a relaxing story for adults, because they offer scale without pressure and wonder without intensity. And Haumea continues that gift by asking almost nothing of us except our quiet company, our unhurried attention, our willingness to float beside one more real world, while the day loosens its final hold and slips gently away behind us, though now very far behind. Pluto still glows in memory with its pale, icy light and delicate blue atmospheric haze, while Ceres remains a soft gray pause in the middle of the journey, and Eris lingers as a silver hush, and all of those earlier chapters seem to fold themselves around this moment, making Haumea feel less like something entirely new and more like another note in the same long and soothing melody. If you imagine Haumea now, there is no need for sharp lines or vivid detail, because this is not a waking image and not a daytime lesson, but a nighttime story, a sleep story, a gentle bedtime passage where each world is encountered through calm mood first, and only then through fact. And so let Haumea remain pale, modest, and softly present, touched by just enough distant light to reassure you that it is there and no more. There is such comfort in modest things at night, in quiet lights, in small worlds, in slow thoughts, in the kind of calm that does not try to impress the mind, but instead invites it to loosen. And Haumea seems made for that invitation, because it arrives with no noise, no urgency, and no need to be fully grasped before rest can begin. You may feel, as the chapter unfolds, that your breathing has become more even, that your jaw has softened, that your hands rest with a little more weight than before, and that your attention no longer needs to chase every sentence all the way to its end, because the story itself is carrying you now, just as the dark carries these quiet worlds, steadily and without strain. In a waking hour, the mind often wants contrast, movement, novelty, and clear edges. But in a calm narration for deep sleep, the mind wants something gentler, something repetitive and spacious, something that feels true without becoming sharp. And this is exactly what the family of recognized dwarf planets has offered us one by one, with Haumea now taking its place among them as the next peaceful center of gravity for a tired imagination. It is lovely to think that far beyond the bright and familiar inner worlds, there remain these smaller companions, each one turning in its own patient way, each one holding its own piece of the great hush, and that by lingering with them in a bedtime story, we allow ourselves to borrow some of their patience, some of their stillness, some of their freedom from urgency. So we rest beside Haumea, now as though beside a pale thought at the edge of dreaming, and the darkness around it does not feel empty, but full of shelter, full of room, full of the quiet order that makes sleep easier to trust, as if the cosmos itself had slowed its breathing to match yours. If a thought from the day still tries to follow you, let it become smaller here. Let it become rounder and dimmer. Let it take on the soft distance of a tiny world seen through a calm and drowsy mind, until it no longer feels like a problem at all, but only another little object floating harmlessly in the dark. This is one of the most soothing gifts of sleepy science, that it can turn the mind outward just enough to free it from its own tight circles. And then, once the mind is floating among these quiet bodies, it can guide that mind gently inward again, toward deep sleep, toward release, toward the slow kind of rest that arrives without struggle. Haumea remains before us with all the modest dignity of a real dwarf planet. And yet, in the softness of this story, it also becomes something more, a symbol of calm continuation, a reminder that there is always another peaceful thing to notice, another quiet fact to rest upon, another tender chapter beyond the edge of wakefulness. So remain here for a little while longer in Haumea's pale stillness, with Pluto, Ceres, and Eris folded into the dreamlike distance behind us, and Makemake waiting patiently ahead in the unseen dark. And let the words thin out around you like faint starlight, until even listening becomes optional, even thought becomes light, and the whole universe of small worlds seems to rock you forward with such steady gentleness that falling asleep no longer feels like an effort at all, but simply the next natural drift in a long and peaceful orbit. Now, as gently as a curtain settling after the faintest breath of air, we begin to drift onward from Haumea, and the pale stillness that surrounded us, there does not disappear, but remains folded softly within the story, like a cool layer of moonlight resting beneath everything that follows. While ahead, there begins to gather the next quiet companion in our long procession of small worlds, Makemake, another name to be spoken slowly, another real little world to be approached with the kind of tenderness that belongs only to a true sleep story. Makemake is one of the officially recognized dwarf planets, belonging with Pluto, Ceres, Eris, and Haumea, in that calm family of small worlds that has carried us so patiently through this gentle bedtime journey. There's something soothing in knowing that these worlds belong together, because belonging makes the dark feel less empty. And when the dark feels less empty, it becomes easier to rest inside it, easier to let the body grow heavy, easier to let the mind stop reaching for every unfinished thought it carried from the day. Behind us now, Pluto remains a pale memory of frozen light and delicate blue haze. Ceres remains a gray and modest pause in the narrative. Eris lingers as silver remoteness, and Haumea as a soft pale hush, each one fading without being lost, each one still present in the long corridor of night like lamps left low in distant rooms. Head Makemake does not arrive suddenly, because nothing in this relaxing story should ever disturb the listener with brightness or speed. And so it begins only as a subtle warming of attention, a small faraway presence forming in the blackness so gradually that it feels less like a destination and more like the next calm thought chosen for us by the night itself. If you imagine it now, let it be gentle and incomplete, a softly rounded world waiting far ahead in the cool dark, touched by just enough distant light to comfort you, never enough to wake you, while the words of the story move in long, slow waves around it, like dark water folding again and again against a quiet shore. There is a special kindness in these sleepy science facts, because they are true enough to steady the imagination and soft enough to lull it. And Makemake now becomes another of those steadying truths, another small celestial companion whose simple existence can give the mind something calm to rest upon, while sleep draws closer with every easy breath. Perhaps by now you can feel how the journey itself has become part of the lullaby, not merely the places we visit, but the manner of traveling between them, the unhurried drifting, the spacious intervals, the way each world leaves a trace of stillness behind, so that the story grows quieter and softer as it goes. And this passage toward Makemake carries that same rhythm forward, asking nothing of you except that you remain where you are, warm and supported, and allow the distance ahead to feel peaceful instead of far. In waking life, faraway things can feel difficult or uncertain. But here, in a nighttime story shaped for deep sleep, distance is a comfort, because distance smooths every edge, softens every contrast, and turns the solar system into a wide velvet house where each small world waits in its own silent room. Makemake seems to wait in just such a room now, and the door to that room is opening very slowly, not enough to startle, only enough to let a little more calm spill into the story. The recognized dwarf planets have become such faithful companions that even their names now seem to move like breathing. Pluto, Ceres, Eris, Haumea, Makemake, each one low and round, and quiet on the tongue, each one offering a different shade of stillness. And that continuity is its own form of comfort, because the mind at bedtime longs for gentle patterns, for repeated forms, for the reassurance that one soft thing will follow another, until there is nothing left to do but sleep. So let the pattern continue here, and let your own thoughts become patterned in the same way, slower, fewer, dimmer, less interested in holding shape, more willing to drift apart like small lanterns on a dark river, each one moving so softly that you no longer feel the need to follow it to the end. If any thought tries to return to the day, allow it to pass behind you, as Haumea is passing behind us now, not rejected, not argued with, simply receding into a softer distance where it can no longer trouble the still surface of the mind. Head, Makemake gathers almost imperceptibly, and that near invisibility is part of the peace, because sleep often comes best when things are sensed more than seen, when the world remains gentle at the edges, when nothing insists too strongly on being understood. Pluto once taught us that even in the outer dark, there can be blue softness in a thin atmosphere. And ever since then, the whole journey has seemed touched by that lesson, as if all the dwarf planets were quietly illuminated by the same principle, that remoteness can be beautiful, smallness can be comforting, and silence can be kind. Makemake now inherits that calm inheritance, becoming the next little world to hold our attention lightly. And lightly is the important word, because the mind that is close to sleep should not be gripped, but cradled, not sharpened, but smoothed, not awakened, but gently accompanied across the final threshold. So we continue in this slow and tender way, leaving Haumea as a pale blessing behind us, carrying Pluto, Ceres, and Eris in the layered hush of memory, and moving toward Makemake through a darkness so spacious and protective that it almost feels warm, until the distinction between traveling and dreaming begins to dissolve, and the story itself becomes like an orbiting breath, long, circular, and effortless, carrying you farther into rest with every quiet word. And now, dear listener, as Makemake waits ahead only as a gentle suggestion in the dark, and as Pluto, Ceres, Eris, and Haumea rest behind us like dim and faithful lanterns along the long corridor of night, we arrive not at another bright chapter of discovery, but at the quiet edge of the story itself, where everything begins to soften, loosen, and fade into a deeper calm, and where the family of recognized dwarf planets can remain around you, not as objects to think about, but as peaceful companions drifting through the wide and patient hush of the solar system. This has been a sleep story, a bedtime story, a nighttime story carried on the slow turning of small worlds. And now it asks even less of you than before, because there is no need to follow every word, no need to remember each chapter, no need to keep hold of Pluto's blue haze, or Ceres's gray stillness, or Eris's silver quiet, or Haumea's pale calm with any effort at all. For they can all remain where they belong now, floating softly in the background of your mind, like distant lights seen through half-closed eyes. If Pluto still lingers with you, let it linger only as a feeling, a little frozen lantern far beyond the familiar planets, turning in the silence with its delicate atmosphere and its soft, faraway dignity. And if the other small worlds remain too, let them gather like quiet pearls on a dark thread, each one spaced gently apart, each one steady, each one untroubled, each one moving so slowly that motion itself begins to feel like rest. There's nothing more to reach now, because the journey has already done its work, carrying you outward and inward at the same time, away from the busy edges of the day, and toward the deeper, darker, kinder places where the mind no longer needs to perform, explain, or solve, but may simply float, suspended in a great soft stillness, while the universe keeps watch without asking anything in return. Let the small worlds recede now if they wish, not vanishing, but dimming, becoming rounder and gentler and farther away, until the whole solar system seems to be breathing with you in long, slow waves. One soft inhale across the stars, one softer exhale into the dark, and let that rhythm become your only task, if it can even be called a task, breathing and drifting and breathing, while the night wraps itself around you with more tenderness than language can quite hold. If a thought rises, let it rise like a tiny moon and pass quietly onward. If a memory appears, let it dim into the same velvety distance where all the other lights have gone. If a feeling from the day still remains, allow it to become smaller here, softer here, less urgent here, until it too resembles one of these remote and modest worlds, floating harmlessly in a silence too vast and too gentle to disturb you. You do not need to stay beside Makemake or Pluto or any world at all now, because the purpose of this gentle bedtime was never to keep you awake among the stars, but to let the stars become so calm, so spacious, and so kind that your tired mind could finally set down its weight and trust the dark. The recognized dwarf planets remain real and patient in their places, but within this outrow, they become something even gentler, a rhythm of names, a procession of soft celestial companions: Pluto, Ceres, Eris, Haumea, Makemake, spoken not to sharpen attention, but to lull it, to lower it, to carry it down like a feather descending through still air toward the quiet floor of sleep. And perhaps the loveliest thing about small worlds is that they never seem to ask for greatness, only for presence. And presence is such a restful thing at night, because you do not need to become anything else, achieve anything else, or hold yourself upright against the day any longer. You may simply be here, warm and supported, while the story thins into hush around you, and the cosmos becomes a cradle of distance and dim light. The room where you lie may already feel far away, or perhaps very close and safe, and either is all right, because the boundaries are softening now, and the words themselves are softening too, growing longer and quieter, and less important in their meanings than in their motion, like little waves crossing a dark lake under a moonless sky. Soon there will be almost nothing left but that motion, that softness, that drifting sense that everything is continuing without effort. The planets, the dwarf planets, the stars, the darkness, the breath, the night, and you within it all, held gently, carried gently, allowed to rest. So let the final image be simple: a wide black sky, tender and endless, and within it, a few small worlds turning with immeasurable patience, keeping their places without noise, glowing only enough to comfort, while you grow quieter than thought, quieter than memory, quieter than the story itself. Let Pluto become a pale blue hush, Let Ceres become a gray sigh. Let Eris become a silver stillness. Let Haumea become a soft white pause. Let Makemake become a distant ember, fading beautifully into dark. And let all of them move farther and farther away, until there is no need to picture them anymore. No need even to listen, only to drift, only to sink, only to follow this calm and cooling current downward into deep sleep, where the small worlds keep turning, the night keeps breathing, and you, at last, can simply rest.